All right, everybody, we will get started now. Thank you for joining us today. This is actually the second part of a brief workshop series that we did on DOE SBIR proposals and their proposal process. The first video was focused on letter of intent writing, and if y'all have submitted a letter of intent today, you should or should not be hearing back on your responsiveness, and we'll briefly touch on that in today's webinar. My name is Melissa Tennick, and I'm a program manager for NMFAST at Arrowhead Center. I'm also joined by Kathy Foster and Dana Catron in the comments. They will be able to answer any questions that pop up in the chat as we are going through. Okay, and to briefly chat about the purpose of this presentation. So we're going to start off with a general overview on the SBIR and STTR programs. Then we're going to jump into the SBIR and STTR proposal requirements for DOE. We're going to focus on their phase 1 package and the fast track package. Then we're going to briefly touch on the SBIR and STTR evaluation criteria. And we will end off with different development resources that are available within our state and within your states as well. Okay, so briefly talk about the Small Business Innovation Research Program and the STTR program. These programs are used to help startups and small businesses transform their high-risk, high-impact technologies into marketable products and services that can solve problems within our nation. Sorry, I'm just going to mute folks that are unmuted. Just make sure that you are muting yourself as you enter the room. Some goals of the SBIR and STTR programs are to meet federal R&D needs by providing research dollars to small businesses. And it's to increase private sector commercialization of innovations derived from this R&D funding. It's also to stimulate technological innovation from small businesses. This program also looks to foster and encourage participation in innovation and entrepreneurship by socially and economic disadvantaged persons. And then if you're interested in the STTR program, one goal of it is to foster technology transfer through cooperative R&D between small businesses and large research institutions. To be eligible for the SBIR and STTR programs, you need to be a for-profit small business that is located within the United States. More than 50% of your business needs to be owned and controlled by individuals who are citizens or permanent residents of the United States, and you can't have more than 500 employees. And the SBIR and STTR program is really focused on performing R&D. It is not focused on purchasing equipment, commercializing a technology that has already been developed, or a technology where a small business says, all I need is more money and more human power, and we'll be able to bring this to the market. That is not what SBIR is interested in. They're interested in these high-risk, innovative research initiatives that a small business, if they were to try to check the feasibility of these new technologies, that will the small business will most likely not be able to sustain itself past a few months. So with SBIR, very important, you need to have an innovation that is high risk. It doesn't always have to be very, very technical, but it does have to be high risk. And with DOE, a lot of the time, the topics that are a match are going to be high risk, high tech innovations. Okay, and then I briefly touched on SBIR and STTR to talk about the differences just briefly on this slide here. So SBIR agencies have a R&D budget of greater than $100 million. STTR agencies, they have budgets that are greater than $1 billion. With SBIR, you are able to have a partner, but it is not required. The PI or principal investigator needs to be primarily employed by the small business at greater than 50%. So at least 20.1 hours per week. A regular work week is 40 hours. For the work requirement, you can outsource up to 33% of the work during phase 1 and 50% of the work during phase 2 with an SBIR, and those are the maximums. There is no formal IP requirement with SBIR, but a lot of times if you are going to partner with a large institution, it is recommended to have some sort of IP protections in place. STTR, on the other hand, it requires a research partner. The PI may be employed by the small business or the research partner. For DOE, doesn't matter. And for STTR, it's a conversation of minimums. So with STTR, the small business needs to complete at least 40% of the work, and the 30% needs to go to the research institute. The remaining 30% can be determined by the small business where that work, where they want to put that work, they want that work to go. For STTR, there is a formal IP requirement, agreement required, because you are going to be working with a large institution. A lot of times it is to support and protect the small business. You want to make sure that your IP is being protected when you are working with these large institutions. And the SBIR program is SBIR and STTR programs are gated programs. So there's phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Everyone right now is in phase 0. Phase 0 is this pre-award period where you're putting your proposal together. So for DOE, this pre-award period was a portion of it was writing your letter of intent and submitting your letter of intent. If you don't hear anything back from DOE today, you can start writing your full proposal. That is what phase 0 is for. Phase 0 is also an opportunity to connect with your state's FAST awardees. We have a lot of resources in addition to micro grants and have connections to support organizations that can really be used to take your proposal and bring it up to that higher level to help you make that really, really strong proposal. Phase 1 is going to be feasibility testing. So when you're applying for a typical traditional SBIR route, you are going through phase 1 first, and you're going to be doing kind of concept development and feasibility testing for your highly innovative and new technology. For DOE, phase 1 awards range from $200,000 to $250,000 for 6 to 12 months of work. And there is approximately a 15% success rate with phase 1 applications. With DOE, as you are in phase 1, as you're reaching the end of your period of performance, you're already applying for phase 2. Phase 2 is the prototype development phase. Here you're at the end of your 24 months, year to 24 months, depending on the agency, you're expected to have a prototype developed that during phase 3, you can go sell in the commercial marketplace. For phase 2, the award amounts range from $500,000 to a little bit over 1.5 million for a period of performance of 24 months. And there is an increased rate of success. This is because only folks that have had a successful phase 1 are eligible to apply to phase 2 funding. Briefly in the beginning, I mentioned how we're going to be talking about the traditional phase 1 approach and the fast track approach. So the fast track approach with DOE is a brand new concept that they just released this year. But with the fast track approach, you're not just applying for phase 1, you're applying for phase 1 and phase 2. So up to 33 months of work in one proposal package. So I'll briefly talk about the benefits of both directions when we are talking about the requirements for each proposal type. Okay, and for the DOE proposal process, our first webinar covered the first part of it, is actually writing a letter of intent. If you're interested in seeing what we had to say about writing a letter of intent, that can be accessed there. Most of you should have already submitted your letter of intent and are waiting today to hear back if your letter of intent was found responsive or not. If you do not hear back from DOE by today, that is good news. That means you have been found responsive to a topic that you applied to. If you do hear back from them, they're most likely going to say you're not responsive and give you reasons for why you are not. You can still apply, you can still submit a full proposal if you're not found responsive. DOE program managers say that that is a possibility for you to take your the comments that you get from your letter of intent and then apply them to your full proposal and then submit a full proposal. That is an option, but many times if they don't find you responsive, it might be a better idea to wait until the next topic that better matches your innovation. If you don't hear anything back today, though, that is really, really good news. That means you're invited to submit a full proposal by February 23rd. And I just took a screenshot from the DOE website showing the deadlines. I would say to save that in your bookmarks if you're interested in submitting to them, because these dates change often. when they initially opened their topics or released their topics, the full application was due February 21st. Now they've moved it to February 23rd. They will update you on that page, so just make sure that you're always visiting that page if you have any questions. Okay, and now I'm briefly going to touch on the different proposal package requirements for the different opportunities through this release of DOE topics. Here are just topic blurbs or information that is released for each topic for underneath this FOA. You get a lot of information from here. You can see what the award ceiling is. You can see what kinds of applications they're accepting. So for example, 5615, they're accepting phase 1 and fast track applications. 5616 is not accepting fast track applications for phase 1 or for SBIR. So you can get a lot of information from just looking at the topic areas and making sure that you are writing a proposal that matches the needs of your topic area. So for example, you don't want to write a fast track application to a topic that is only accepting traditional phase 1 SBIR applications. And there are different award levels within DOE and for these different tracks, but you'll see kind of how they are very much the same thing, just the proposal process looks a little bit different. So for phase 1, the award ceilings are capped off at $200,000 and $250,000 for a period performance of 6 to 12 months. For phase 2 or a traditional phase 2, that is 1.1 or 1.6 million for a 2-year period of performance. For fast track, you can see their ceilings are phase 1 and phase 2 added together. So it really is reinforcing this idea that fast track, they really want you to think about your phase 1 and phase 2 in a whole complete picture. But for fast track, the award ceilings are at 1.3 million and 1.85 million for a period of performance that is less than 33 months. DOE allows extensions, but that is a conversation you would have to have with your contracting manager. There are certain registrations that are required before you submit your letter of intent or full proposal. The registrations for the letter of intent should have already been completed, or else you wouldn't have been able to submit your letter of intent. But for the full proposal, you need to make sure that your SAM, UEI, identifications, registrations are active. This can take a little bit of time, but if you're interested in submitting your proposal within a month, it is really, really important for you to get those registrations started yesterday. So really be going on that right now. In addition, the SBA has registrations for small businesses. These are pretty quick to complete. And then making sure that you have your grants.gov profile built, making sure that you can open up a workspace, making sure that all of these registrations that you've built before are actually communicating with grants.gov. Those are really important things for y'all to be doing right now before it is the deadline for the proposal submission. And DOE is expecting to fund 200 proposals, and this covers both traditional phase 1 and fast track proposals with this release. Okay, so with each topic release, there is a topic document and there's a funding opportunity announcement. The funding opportunity announcement lists all of the requirements for a complete DOE proposal package. Some of the different parts of the requirements will include templates. Others will require you to fully just write everything out in paragraph form, but that they will distinguish that within grants.gov. Within the FOA, you should see a document that is similar to the one on the right side here. It lists all of the different requirements for the different opportunities, either phase 1 or fast track, and we will briefly touch on the different requirements here. And remember, you don't need to complete all of the sections, only focus on the sections that are applicable to your business and your strategy. For example, you don't need to have subawardee documentation if you don't have a subaward. They are necessary for SDTR, so SDTR proposal packages will include those. But if your business decides for your phase 1 traditional SBIR that you need a subaward, then you might need that documentation. But it is not required for everyone. It really is dependent on what your business strategy is. The LOI is included as a requirement, but if we're here at this webinar today, we've already completed the LOI requirement. Okay, so the first set of R&R forms are going to be budget related. So for the budget forms, there are templates within grants.gov for you to use. Make sure to complete the budget for all key personnel, any equipment you'll be using, traveling, and any direct or indirect funds. Most of the budget for phase one should really be geared towards supporting key personnel for that phase one feasibility research. You really shouldn't be spending money on equipment, especially really expensive equipment. If there is a lot of money going toward that, DOE is going to kind of look at your budget and ask some questions. Applicants also during phase one should typically not be traveling, so there should not be a lot of travel allocated. But DOE has some specific travel requirements for PIs at the start of their period of performance, so that needs to be included in your budget. If you have a sub-awardee, they will also need to submit their own budget and budget justification. So just keep that in mind. So if you are working with a sub-awardee, making sure that you're sending information out or requesting information to be sent to you to have that full budget story complete by the February due date. And then a budget justification needs to be provided for each budget line item that is a non-zero. There is a template for budget justification in grants.gov, but just a nice rule of thumb is if there isn't a zero in that line item, making sure that you're explaining why you need that to be purchased. And with the budget, you don't need to have everybody hired as key personnel right now. The budget really is important for the period of performance. So as you're building your budget in this period right now, think about your dream team. Who do you want to be on your team during your period of performance for the execution of this grant? Include those people there. Those might just be titles or job duties. They might not be actual folks yet, but just knowing or outlining that you have funds assigned to them. And then when your period performance starts, making sure those people are hired for your team. Any key or senior folks listed in your budget are also going to need different profile information. So team members that are listed as key personnel in narrative and budget also need to be accompanied by biographical sketches and current and pending support forms. Grants.gov allows DOE to use the forms that are designed for NSF. So there are templates for the biographical sketch as well as the current and pending support that you can just fill out with information for each key personnel. And then information on these biographical sketches on getting to the current and pending support forms, that can all be found in the FOA. There's links in there for you. Okay, now the next R&R section is going to be the other project information, and this includes the project narrative. The project narrative really is the body of your proposal. It talks about what we're going to do, why you're going to do it. It explains your technical objectives, the different work plan that you're going to have. It talks about the different facilities and equipment that you need to have access to. It also talks about the performance schedule for phase one. In your narrative, you can also include there's also an area to include consultants and subcontractors. For example, if you don't want a sub-awardee, if you want to just bring in a consultant for some of the work, this is the section that you would describe that in. If there's letters of support that you have collected from end users or customers of your innovation, this is also where those should be included. This section is going to be the most time consuming. When we say it takes you about 120 hours to complete a full proposal package, a lot of that time is allocated to the actual narrative. And kind of constraints on the narrative, it is limited to 15 pages, 7,500 words. So there's a lot of information to include, but you also have to be very concise to include all of the information that you think is necessary to tell your story. DOE also has a commercialization plan requirement. This looks different for phase one and phase two, and now looks different also for the fast track, but I will talk about that shortly. For the phase one commercialization plan, DOE understands that small businesses are still testing the feasibility of their innovation. They just want to see that you're starting to think about what the roadmap towards commercialization will look like. They understand that you might have some of the information wrong or that you're still learning, and that you'll use phase one to actually, phase one technical and business assistance funding to develop your commercialization plan for phase two. So for phase one, the commercialization plan is confined only to 4 pages, about 2,000 words, and needs to just touch on or talk about the following 4 pieces of information. They, again, DOE for the section, they know that you will have an idea of what your market looks like, of where you'd want to go in the market, but they won't be grading you or rating you too harshly on this section, not for phase one. They just want to see that you're thinking about it and that it is commercially viable. We're going to briefly jump over into the fast track opportunity. Because so the fast track opportunity is very, very, very similar to the phase one opportunity, except that it's asking you to collect information from phase one and from phase two and put it together into one large proposal that is supposed to cover 33 months of performance. That can be really hard for a small business to plan ahead for 33 months in advance. This is also the first time the DOE is running the fast track opportunity. My rule of thumb is the first time any go around, there's going to be a lot of hiccups. So if we are interested in DOE as our phase two kind of destination, there's nothing wrong with just doing a traditional phase one and then during that phase one applying for the phase two. They tried to introduce this fast track opportunity to kind of remove a lapse in payment that occurs between phase one and phase two, but that lapse in payment is very, very small. It's only a few months. And then for the materials required in each proposal, everything is almost exactly the same, except that for fast track, they really want you to describe phase one and phase two efforts in your proposal package. This does include what is your work plan for 33 months. So again, it can be beneficial if you have a team that is able to think, okay, we can think 33 months in advance, we can plan for 33 months in advance. But a lot of small businesses, they might not have that team. So it might be better to kind of work through the program with that gated mind and with the gated approach in mind. The commercialization plan also increases in importance during this fast track application. So the commercialization plan needs to be very well developed. Typically, what small businesses will do is during phase one, they'll use their technical and business assistance funding to develop this strong commercialization plan for phase two. With fast track, you don't have that opportunity. With fast track, you and your team need to sit down and come up with your whole commercialization plan for after your 33 months, right there at the beginning. That can be really difficult, especially if you're not having support from your technical and business assistants. But for the fast track opportunity, the commercialization plan, that it is limited to 15 pages. So it's jumped lots from that 4 with the traditional phase one. And it needs to include very well developed sections that talk about your market opportunity. How will it be addressed? Who is your company and team for the duration of the project for the whole 33 months? What does your competition look like? What intellectual property protections do you have in place or are planning to have in place during these 33 months? And then they ask for your business, finance, and revenue model. Very similar to what they're asking in the traditional phase one application and the traditional phase one commercialization plan. They really ask you to develop the ideas that are placed there. Now let's briefly talk about the evaluation for the phase one DOE application and the fast track DOE application. For phase one, equal consideration is given to the following requirements. So the strength of the scientific and technical approach, the ability to competently carry out the project. So do you have a team that is able to support all of the initiatives that you're stating with the bullet point above? And then the impact of the proposed work. You can see from this evaluation criteria that the commercialization plan is not its own piece, but is actually incorporated into the 3 bullet points I just mentioned. Fast track applicants, they will be evaluated on the same 3 bullet points, but they have a 4th one. And that fourth one will be to evaluate the small business on their commercial potential, so their commercialization plan. So if you go after the fast track opportunity, remember the commercialization portion is a lot more important, and you will be evaluated pretty heavily on that. And then for the reviewers of your proposals, keep in mind that reviewers will be experts and non-experts. They will be folks that have technical background from working in some of the national labs, or they will be folks that have been successful in bringing energy solutions to the marketplace. They could be coming from both sectors. So make sure that when you are writing your proposal that you aren't using lingo or abbreviations that just folks within your sector understand. You want to make sure that it's technical enough to show that there's this technical merit, but that you explain also enough that outside folks can understand what you are proposing. And this is a really good place to use the FAST sites in your states or use the FAST site here in New Mexico. We love to review proposals. We don't have that technical background that you may have. So sending your proposal to us, you can really read through it and see, is this following kind of, does your proposal make sense? Does what you're saying make sense? Is this narrative really thought out? Okay. And then this can seem really overwhelming. DOE and their proposal writing process or their proposal process can be overwhelming for folks tackling it the first time. We like ending with kind of development resources to show you that you aren't alone. There's different folks in different states, if not in New Mexico, in your respective states, that can help you through this process. So the Small Business Administration, they fund FAST sites or federal and state technology partnership programs in almost all 50 states at this point. FAST sites are funded to provide support through the SBIR and STTR process. This can look like many different things. It can be through outreach, it can be through technical and business assistance. Some FAST sites, they also have microgrants that can be used to really take your proposal and elevate it to that strong proposal category. Here at NMFAST, we offer free SBIR and STTR proposal development assistance. We really tailor our services to each client. So we don't just work with one federal agency, we work with all of them. So if you are interested in DOE, we can help you with that. But also if you're interested in Department of Defense or NASA, we can help you with that as well. We have microgrants of up to $2,000, can help with proposal development or commercial travel. We hold free workshops throughout the state that are usually virtual as well, so everybody can have an opportunity to participate. We have a whole toolbox of different resources, templates, compliance matrices, checklists for all of the agencies and for all of the different opportunities offered within each agency. Again, if you're interested in that, please connect with one of us and we are more than happy to send that your way. We have a large video series that explains different parts of the SBIR program, where we also have interviews with different program managers, kind of talking about what they're looking for in different proposals. And then we also hold multi-week accelerators that are focused on really teaching small businesses how to, from week by week, step by step, how to write a strong proposal. We're just finishing up with our DOE one, but if you are interested, please sign up to our newsletter to get alerts when new accelerators are being released. In addition to our accelerators or kind of in-person or time learning, we also have self-paced online courses that show applicants how to navigate the SBIR programs of all of the federal agencies. So we have SBIR 101. This course is focused on giving you a broad overview of all the different agencies that participate. And we also have DOE focus courses. If there are other agencies that you're interested in, we have focus courses for all of the agencies, and we will have them covering all of them by the end of the year. All of the agencies, they release their own newsletters focused on SBIR and STTR to talk about new opportunities, about changes to opportunities. It is super beneficial to go and sign up to each of their listservs or newsletters. They don't release very often, but you do get that really important information. to kind of know when to start planning for having a full proposal done. Also, since we are here, we are assuming that we are interested in Department of Energy. We here at Arrowhead, we have a new cluster that is focused on clean energy growth and resilience within the state of New Mexico. Here we really guide participants through the steps for growth and development via a pipeline model. So we focus on SBIR and STTR, but also we have some resources within the state that we can really leverage to help applicants have strong proposals. This NM Surge is open to folks outside of the state of New Mexico. So if you believe that you are working in the clean tech sector, please sign up here. We will do an intake with you, and we're more than happy to chat about your match. But that is all I have for you today. It was a pretty short one, just kind of covering information to leave time for some questions. My email is here. If you are interested in anything that I talked about and need some additional information, please don't hesitate to reach out. I will be following up with a recording of this webinar and the PowerPoint in a follow-up email as well. But now we have some time for questions.